Just after midday, on Monday the 4th of September 2023, Minot Central Dispatch in the US state of North Dakota received the following 911 call from a 48-year-old woman called Ina Kenoyer, who was concerned about her partner, 51-year-old Stephen Riley.
My husband's really sick. He got heat stroke yesterday, and now he's not waking up. Hey! Wake up!
The ambulance crew found Stephen critically ill. In less than 48 hours, he'd gone from being perfectly healthy to vomiting uncontrollably, being unable to walk, and slipping into a coma. His condition worsened, and he died in agony 24 hours later. But something wasn't right, and an autopsy revealed that Stephen had been poisoned with antifreeze. A murder investigation began, and all the evidence quickly pointed to Kenoyer, and soon her motive would be revealed. Money. She wanted Stephen out of the way to get her hands on over $30 million he was about to inherit. The only problem is, there was no fortune. It was all a scam. She had killed Stephen for nothing. This is a story of greed, cold-blooded murder, and utter stupidity. Welcome to Evil Among Us. Stephen Edward Riley Jr. was born on Friday the 25th of August 1972 in Palm Springs, California. He was born extremely premature and was not expected to survive, but he beat the odds and was eventually joined by two younger sisters. Stephen was described as a happy, smiley child. This continued when he was a young man. He liked nothing more than taking engines apart and putting them back together. But as he got older, his life deteriorated. By his late 30s, Stephen had been married and divorced twice. He was also the father of 5 sons. Why the first marriage broke down is unclear, but with the second, this was due to his alcohol and drug use, and this led to his wife Melissa cutting off contact with him in order to protect the children. Stephen, at the time of his death, was apparently estranged from almost all of his family, but he did have a close bond with one of his sons, Ryan, a young man whose tenacity would be integral to his father getting justice. Stephen also spent time in prison, and when he got out, he was homeless and led a transient lifestyle, staying at a number of homeless shelters. In 2010, Stephen was staying at one in the city of Bellingham, in the state of Washington, where he met the woman who would eventually kill him, Ina Kenoyer. She was born on Thursday the 27th of May 1976 and was a native of Bellingham. There's almost nothing published about her upbringing, aside from the fact that she apparently told people it was hard. After high school, Kenoyer couldn't hold down a job and floated from place to place, always in debt. This eventually led her to being homeless, and she ended up in the same shelter as Stephen Riley. It appears the pair bonded over the fact that their lives had both taken a downward turn, and this appears to have been the linchpin of their relationship. In 2011, the pair moved over 1,700 miles away to Minot, a city in North Dakota. This was because a friend of Stephen's had offered the pair a place to stay, a fresh start, and they took it with both hands. Outwardly, the couple seemed very close, and their relationship idyllic. Stephen would work on cars, and Kenoyer would be there, handing her husband cups of tea and doting on him. They were inseparable, but looking back, this was a warning sign. Stephen, despite his issues with alcohol and drugs, was a kind and likeable man who had a close circle of friends. Kenoyer, on the other hand, appeared to have no one and relied on Stephen entirely. She was utterly dependent on the relationship. Ina Kenoyer's isolation was in large part due to her personality. She was described as a cruel, self-absorbed, and narcissistic woman who Stephen's friends didn't just dislike, they despised. One of his close friends, Billy Birkenhead, later told detectives, quote, "If you don't get her way, she's bad. I mean really bad." He also relayed details of a potentially extremely violent woman, with him telling investigators about an incident that happened in around 2021, 2 years before the murder, with him saying, quote, "I went over one day at their house, and I was leaning over in the truck, gathering tools up, and she came out with a big old knife and tried to stab me. A woman who he was with had to put Kenoyer in a headlock to stop her attacking them." Ina Kenoyer would apparently enjoy belittling Stephen and would even make posts on social media, clearly intended to shame him. In May 2021, around the same time as the knife incident, Kenoyer posted a picture of Stephen with a caption which read, quote, "Hope you all get what you deserve, you fuck." Under another picture of Stephen, she wrote, "Watch out for this man. He'll bleed you dry and spit you out." And attached to a third was a comment reading, "I wish I was worried about this man." Why these messages were specifically posted is not clear, but it seems the couple argued a lot. I think this is how Kenoyer responded when she didn't get her own way. The implication from at least one of these posts was that Stephen sponged off Kenoyer, but it appears the exact opposite was true. Stephen worked consistently, but according to his son Ryan, Ina Kenoyer, quote, "never worked and was leeching off him. She was extremely lazy and never did anything." With only one source of income, and much of this being spent on drink and drugs, the pair struggled with bills and were majorly in debt. The home they lived in together in Minot, apartment 912A, 12th Avenue Northwest, was an absolute shit tip. Ryan later stated, quote, "It was very nasty conditions, dog waste almost everywhere, dirty clothes scattered all over the house, trash seemed to be endless, nothing there was clean." It's obviously the responsibility of everyone living in the house to try and maintain a certain level of hygiene, but it appears that Stephen was out a lot, so Kenoyer was, day in, day out, spending all of her time in this squalor, with the smell of dog shit in her nostrils. The disparity in how the pair saw their relationship was stark. Ina Kenoyer would regularly refer to Stephen as her husband, whereas he would always make it a point to say that the pair weren't married. He had also for years spoken about wanting to leave Kenoyer, sometimes on a daily basis. But why did he stay? Likely because he didn't have anything else. He was broke, so couldn't afford to get out. And like a lot of us, I think he got caught in a rut. He got used to his life, despite the fact that he hated it. But Stephen Riley had something to cling on to, a cruel fantasy about becoming a millionaire, having enough cash to set up his sons for life, to live out his dreams of moving away and opening up his own auto shop. We need to go back a bit to lay the foundations of what happened next. Not all the details of the scam at the centre of this case are known or fully understood, but I'll tell you what's been uncovered, but also use logic to fill in some of the gaps. So in 2016, Stephen Riley was contacted by a man who called himself Marcus Riley, who claimed that he was his long-lost uncle from Ireland and that he was reaching out as he wanted to reconnect with his family. He told Stephen that he was a millionaire and apparently changed his will to include his nephew. The amount he would inherit was apparently just over $17 million. This would be invested, and so when Marcus died, Stephen was likely to receive substantially more than this. Unfortunately, for you and me, we can see clear elements of the scam and the fraudster's thinking. Simply through knowing the name Stephen Riley Jr., this scammer had everything he needed to begin his phishing exercise. Of course, he would choose a relative on his father's side. That way he would know to use the surname Riley. Also, Riley is an anglicised version of the name O'Reilly, so people with this name usually have Irish roots, so the scammer claimed he was from Ireland. Also, as Stephen Riley was a junior, just this simple fact told the scammer that his father shared the same name, so he could use an actual name of a real person to weave into his narrative. As Stephen was estranged from his family, he likely had no one to check the story with. I imagine this scam was sent to hundreds, if not thousands of people with different variations on this story. I have little doubt that Stephen Riley was asked for money around this time, maybe to put his name on the will or something. This is akin to one of those emails that probably all of us have gotten, which say, "Hello, I'm a Nigerian prince. I want to send you 200 million gajillion pounds, but I need you to send me £2,000 first for some reason." The police looked into this and were never able to trace who actually contacted Stephen Riley, but they concluded that this was clearly a scam. But Stephen Riley bought into this, hook, line and sinker. This belief would eventually cost him his life. Has to be said here that yes, Stephen was naive in this instance, but like so many people who fall for these things, he was desperate. The idea of having some sort of decent life was too appealing. Ultimately, the people who deserve our disdain are the pricks who do these things, who target the desperate, the lonely, all to make a quick buck. Anyway, Stephen likely held on to this dream for years, until finally, in June 2023, 4 months before his death, he was contacted by a British lawyer who said that his uncle, who he'd never met in person, had died. Over the preceding 7 years, his inheritance had now grown to a staggering $37 million, and the wheels were apparently in motion for him to receive this money. Stephen was ecstatic. He would soon be a multimillionaire, and told everyone. He told his friends, he told his son, he told them all about the cars he would buy, the house he would own, the businesses he would start. However, he made a fatal mistake. He told Ina Kenoyer that he was going to take the money and leave. He didn't want her, and as soon as the money came through, he was gone. However, Kenoyer had no intention of being sidelined. She was the one in control. She was in charge. She was the one who deserved to be a millionaire. And so she plotted Stephen's murder, all based on money that never even existed. Ina Kenoyer is probably the stupidest criminal I've covered on this channel. First and foremost, because she killed her boyfriend to get her hands on money that didn't exist. Granted, Stephen Riley had also bought into the scam, but ultimately, when he found out there was no money, he would have been devastated, but his life would have moved on. With Kenoyer, if the money didn't exist, she would be killing a man for nothing, which is exactly what she went on to do. She didn't look into the claim at all. She apparently just believed the utter fantasy. This is not the most stupid thing that Ina Kenoyer did, which made her crime utterly pointless. So Kenoyer believed that she was the common law wife of Stephen, and therefore, when he died, she would legally be entitled to inherit his money. In the US, a common law marriage is where no legal ceremony has taken place, but the couple live together, intend to marry, and present themselves as married in public. It's a legal status only recognised in a few states, but there was just one problem. North Dakota, where the pair lived, was not one of them. So not only did Ina Kenoyer kill Stephen Riley for money which didn't exist, but even if he was due to inherit millions of dollars, she was legally entitled to none of it. I mean, how fucking stupid is this woman? Has she never heard of Google? But in her twisted mind, Kenoyer believed that Stephen was within touching distance of inheriting $37 million and leaving her. She was running out of time to stop this. He had to die. She decided, as many female killers do, on poison as her weapon of choice, and she had an abundance of everything she needed close to hand, specifically antifreeze. This was all over the property due to Stephen's work on cars. No doubt she'd been around this for long enough to know how deadly it is. Antifreeze contains a compound called ethylene glycol, which if ingested, metabolizes into toxic acids which deregulate the normal function of internal organs. Just a tablespoon of antifreeze is enough to kill, and from ingestion to death can take as little as 12 to 24 hours. In the early stages, a person may appear drunk, but then there's dizziness and slurred speech, profuse vomiting, and excruciating stomach cramps. In later stages, there's organ failure, seizures, coma and death. It's described as a terrible way to die, both in terms of pain and sheer terror. Often by the time a person realises they've ingested a fatal quantity of antifreeze, it's too late. Antifreeze has a sweet taste, so some manufacturers include additives to make it bitter, but this isn't common. In Ina Kenoyer's mind, this was the perfect plan, and the timing was set when the English lawyer who'd been acting on behalf of Stephen's late uncle organised for the pair to meet on Sunday the 3rd of September 2023 at Minot Airport, where the necessary paperwork would be filled in so the bank transfer could be authorised. This was the day she decided she needed to poison him. Both were counting down to this date, Stephen dreaming of his new life, Kenoyer praying for his death. During the morning and into the early afternoon, Ina Kenoyer made Stephen several cups of sweet tea, each laced with antifreeze, with the taste of this lethal poison being covered up. Kenoyer, Stephen, and several of his friends, including Billy Birkenhead and a man called Wes Torgerson, then went to Minot Airport for the 2 p.m. meeting with the lawyer, but he didn't show up. His flight had apparently been delayed, and he would be there at around 8 p.m. Kenoyer and Stephen stayed, whilst everyone else left, but they came back later for the rescheduled meeting. Again, the lawyer never showed up. Why? I think we can only speculate on. Maybe he was there, all suited and booted, with him intending to claim that he'd just stepped off a first-class flight from London. He would then present fake documents to Stephen to get the inheritance, but oh no, there's a problem. He needs to pay a fee to release it, etc. Likely seeing that Stephen was in the company of others, he panicked and fled. Or maybe he was never there at all. Ultimately, it didn't matter. It was all a scam. Stephen would have been disappointed, but this was the least of his concerns. He didn't know it, but he was dying. Initially, Stephen said that he felt drunk, although he hadn't consumed any alcohol recently. He then started having stomach cramps and could barely walk. Wes was concerned. He wanted to take Stephen to hospital, but Ina Kenoyer said that he would be fine. He was just suffering from heat stroke. She apparently knew this because she had decades of experience in the medical field as a nurse. An utter lie. She said that in her professional opinion, all Stephen needed to do was rest. Wes reluctantly drove the pair home and helped drag a now almost unconscious Stephen Riley into the house. Stephen's condition deteriorated rapidly. The agony he went through during the night of Sunday the 3rd of September into Monday the 4th of September 2023 will never be known for sure, but it is known that he vomited uncontrollably, likely suffered from extreme stomach cramps, as well as experiencing seizures and having difficulty breathing. He would have been utterly terrified. All the while, Kenoyer simply watched. Wes Torgerson was back at the house at 10 AM to check on his friend. He knocked on the door, and Kenoyer opened it a crack and refused to let him in. She spoke to Wes through a gap in the door. She claimed that instead of dying in the bedroom, Stephen had gone to a local walk-in clinic. She then abruptly closed the door. Wes went to every walk-in centre in the city of Minot, as well as the ER, but couldn't find Stephen. At 12:10 PM, just an hour after Wes had been at the door, and knowing the game was up, Ina Kenoyer finally called for an ambulance. This, I assume, was not part of her plan. She no doubt wanted Stephen to die, and then she would call for help, but she had to bring the plan forward. By this point, Stephen was in a terrible state, in agony, slipping in and out of consciousness, slumped on the floor in his own vomit. Kenoyer was nervously praying he wouldn't make it. Less than 10 minutes after the 911 call was made, an ambulance and the police were on scene. Ina Kenoyer was already laying the groundwork to get away with murder. She claimed that Stephen had been drinking the day before and had gotten a heat stroke whilst working on his truck. Stephen was put in an ambulance and rushed to hospital. However, Kenoyer could not help herself, again showing her stupidity, and likely because she wanted to brag to someone. When her upstairs neighbour, Rebecca Bellow, asked what had happened to Stephen, she said, quote, "He was poisoned," before clarifying that she was sure that Stephen had been poisoned with antifreeze. Of course, at this point, she couldn't have known this unless she was involved. Stephen's condition was so grave that he was airlifted to St. Alexius Hospital in Bismarck and was rushed into intensive care. By this point, he was in a coma and his organs were shutting down. Doctors worked tirelessly to save him, but on Tuesday the 5th of September 2023, 51-year-old Stephen Riley died. Showing how much Ina Kenoyer was despised, likely due to the suspicion that she'd been responsible for Stephen's death, no one told her about his passing. The police were then called back to the property just hours after Stephen was pronounced dead. They were called there by Billy Birkenhead, who was standing guard over his friend's property. He knew Stephen was gone and was concerned that Kenoyer would start selling his stuff. He also expressed his concern to the police that Stephen had been murdered. I'll show you clips from his statement, but also the moment when Ina Kenoyer actually found out that Stephen Riley had died, so you can see her Oscar-worthy performance.
You just keep her from not selling all his stuff, everything will be fine.
Was it her husband?
Yeah. They're not married.
Well, we can't babysit what she does, though.
Right. Well, I mean, me and Steve, we're partners in all of this. The motor's mine, the trench is.
Yeah.
And I don't want her to sell it because we think she poisoned him.
Yeah.
I'm almost sure she poisoned him.
So what's your plan right now?
We're making sure nothing goes. I found out a little while ago that he died. He's dead.
Yeah.
Steve's dead.
Okay, when's the son supposed to get here?
Not dead. I told you.
Stop!
He's not.
He's dead.
I just beat his son.
And he was poisoned.
Dead, yeah.
She hasn't been notified yet?
What?
She hasn't been notified yet?
Who? I don't know.
I think that's what dispatch was saying.
That she hasn't?
Yeah.
No. Okay. He is. I thought everybody knew. Sorry.
Don't tell me anything.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I guess the son is on his way here. Okay. Apparently the son is on the way here. So.
My son better put them all in prison.
Yeah. Do you know the son? You know the son? Yeah.
I haven't seen him since
You what?
I haven't seen him since he was 5.
Oh wow. Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna go. You guys just leave each other alone. Everything will be fine. Okay. All righty.
Another person who was deeply suspicious was Stephen's son Ryan, who called the police, saying he believed his father had been murdered. He also asked the hospital to perform an autopsy. This revealed that Stephen had died by ingesting a lethal dose of ethylene glycol. It also exposed the first lie in Ina Kenoyer's story. There was no evidence of alcohol in Stephen's system, so he hadn't been drinking before his death, like she claimed. The results of the post-mortem meant that Minot Police Department began a murder investigation. When the murder investigation began, Ina Kenoyer went into full panic mode. She called the police randomly on Wednesday the 6th of September 2023, asking to speak to them, and so officers went to her property.
This is property that Steve was buying after his inheritance got here.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to, I think he left it to his son, but I had to Google where to go to get his inheritance switched over to the people he left it to. I don't know.
Okay. Who actually is the owner of this truck?
Steve.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in his name.
It's in his name?
Yeah, the title's coming. Yeah, we were going to get all his fines paid off, get both of our license, get some new cars,
Okay.
go to Ireland, get married, stay in his family castle or whatever, because that's what he wanted to do.
Wow.
And the day he was supposed to meet his lawyer at the airport, apparently I thought it was heat stroke, and he said it was heat stroke. That was the last day I talked to him.
Okay.
But the last thing he said was get a restraining order against Wes and the property, and make sure you don't get paid. That change it over, and that I was right about his friends. Because when I left him a while back, like a year ago, I told him, you gotta go with me. Your friends are gonna fucking kill you. You gotta leave them. I don't care if you're here, but get a real job and don't ever talk to them again, because they will kill you. Apparently he was poisoned.
This is an interesting clip. You can see the utter incompetence of Ina Kenoyer trying to manipulate the police. So she's trying to make out that she's solely concerned that all of Stephen's money goes to the right people. Obviously, she wouldn't take a penny. No. Also, I told him his friends were going to kill him one day, and in his last moments, whilst in agony and slipping in and out of consciousness, he definitely told me to get a restraining order out on one of his closest friends and not to give him a penny. Yep, all sounds very plausible. Obviously, this didn't work, and in fact, that increased suspicion around Kenoyer. Stephen's friends Billy Birkenhead and Wes Torgerson were both interviewed, as well as his son Ryan and their upstairs neighbour, Rebecca Mello, and they all pointed the finger straight at Ina Kenoyer, and her lies began to fall apart. This included the fact that she claimed that Stephen was at a walk-in centre, but there was no evidence of this. Also, it came to light about her comment that she'd made about Stephen being poisoned prior to anyone knowing about this. Added to this, Billy's partner, a woman called Lynn, told detectives that Kenoyer had apparently joked her in the past that if she was ever going to kill Stephen, she would do this by poisoning him with antifreeze. A search warrant was executed at apartment 912A, and as well as documenting the squalor that Kenoyer and Stephen Riley lived in, they also found a glass Coors Light bottle and a plastic mug, both of which contained antifreeze, located in the garage. They also found an old Windex bottle without a cap on, containing antifreeze, which was found in the living room. Ina Kenoyer was also brought in for questioning on Wednesday the 13th of September 2023, 8 days after Stephen's death, and one of the first things investigators did was drop the hammer and inform her that she was not entitled to any of Stephen's money as they were not legally married. The subsequent police report stated, quote, Ina Kenoyer was incensed when apprised by detectives that North Dakota does not recognise common law marriage, and she would in fact not be entitled to a portion of any inheritance. So Kenoyer now knew that she'd done all of this for nothing. She wasn't getting any money, and now she was simply fighting to stay out of prison, and she began to spin her lies. She was apparently unaware that the police knew far more than they were letting on. She went through multiple ridiculous scenarios about how Stephen could have been poisoned with antifreeze, including claiming that he'd accidentally drunk some of this liquid 6 months to a year before his death, apparently with no ill effect, so this could have happened again. She also hilariously speculated that Stephen may have dropped a cigarette into antifreeze and then smoked it afterwards. Ina Kenoyer kept digging a hole for herself, and here are a couple of clips from her interview, including when she claims she wasn't interested in the money, and she continues to lie about Stephen drinking. Also, there's the point where she's finally called out on her lies.
Were you expecting that if something, you would get money?
No.
Okay.
Like I said, I would have given it to his ex-wives because they deserve it way more than I did.
Okay.
Because they were actually married. He was drinking beer all day. He was working in the garage. He was spray painting his truck, with the doors and the windows closed, and barely drinking any water.
So he consumed almost a case of beer in...
Oh, he can drink more than that. I've seen him drink a couple cases.
But on that day...
Yeah, it was a case of beer.
From probably 6 or 7 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon, so 5 to 6 hours? Does that sound right?
Probably.
Okay. Did you drink anything else?
Just a glass of water that I brought him, and his tea. I made iced tea because he begged for iced tea. That's pretty much it. Glass of tea and a glass of ice water.
Concerns here, okay, and I'm just going to be honest with you. You told the paramedics when they were there that morning or afternoon that he had been drinking till 5 in the morning, that he had been consuming alcohol. That's on body cam. Okay, you said he was drinking all day the day before and that he drank his last drink at 5 a.m. Okay, and now you're telling me
tea.
That's not what you say on this video. Okay,
I want to see this video.
Okay, well, I'm not going to show you the body cam. I'm just telling you that that's what's on there. There's reports that Wes came to the house that morning, and you said that Steve was at the walk-in clinic. He wasn't at the walk-in clinic.
Steve didn't want to see Wes anymore.
Okay, but Steve wasn't at the walk-in clinic.
He was at the hospital.
He wasn't at the hospital. He wasn't anywhere yet. Because
He was
it's been
at the
verified. He
hospital.
wasn't when Wes was there, okay?
He just left with the ambulance when Wes showed up there.
That's not what's been reported to us. Wes was there prior to.
Yeah, the timestamps prove that.
I want a lawyer.
Okay, that's fine.
Am I being arrested?
Nope, you're not being arrested. We're just talking. So, but if you want a lawyer, we can stop talking right now. That's fine.
But I'm telling you the God honest truth. I don't know what happened. I wasn't there. I wish I was there. I wish I was with him every second of the day that day. I wish I watched every single, but I'm not his goddamn mom.
You asked for a lawyer, Ina, so we're just going to end this now. Okay, I'm not going to talk anymore. All right?
You guys are so unbelievable.
While she was allowed to walk out of this interview, Ina Kenoyer's days of freedom were numbered, and on Monday the 30th of October 2023, she was arrested on suspicion of murder.
Please lock up my house.
Yeah, we'll lock up your house for you.
I'll give you the keys, but...
Yeah, we'll lock your house up for you. Is there anything you need?
Yes? Why me?
So right.
Who?
So you get that. So now you do have the right to remain silent. You want us to lock up your house still?
Yes.
Okay, where are your keys at? Will your door even lock?
No? You guys busted open after I offered the key.
When's that?
When the detectives came and talked to me.
Okay, so it normally doesn't lock though.
Normally it does lock.
But since then it hasn't locked. So, is there anything you need from the house? Purse? Just don't
Never been arrested before like this. I've never done anything. I haven't done anything.
Right.
Not ever.
We'll let you smoke a cigarette.
Sorry, but my face, everything is gone.
We just need probable cause to make an arrest, so it's over and proof, okay? You're still innocent, so you're guilty.
I know I'm innocent.
You're welcome.
Kenoyer was subsequently charged with the Class AA felony homicide of Stephen Riley, the most serious category of murder in North Dakota. She was held in the Ward County Detention Center to await her fate. On Thursday the 7th of December 2023, Ina Kenoyer pleaded not guilty to the murder of Stephen Riley. She represented herself, and I think that the prosecutors were preparing for a battle and anticipated another Sarah Boone situation, someone who drags out the process for years, making themselves out to be the victim. However, Kenoyer surprised everyone when on Wednesday the 29th of May 2024, with her attorney by her side, she pleaded guilty to the murder of Stephen Riley.
Plead not guilty or not guilty. Guilty.
This was after reaching a plea deal, meaning that she would receive a sentence where there was a possibility of release in decades to come. On Tuesday the 15th of October 2024, Kenoyer was back in court for sentencing, in front of State District Judge Richard Hager. Stephen's son, Ryan Riley, and one of his sisters, Stephanie Gonzalez, appeared via video link to deliver their victim impact statements. Stephanie said, quote, "As so many other families of victims often feel, the punishment should fit the crime. But lucky for you, the Department of Corrections doesn't serve antifreeze in your iced tea. My opinion of you, from what you did to my brother, is that you are ironically an exact reflection of the home that you kept and lived in. Vile, filthy, disgusting, embarrassing, gross, full of feces, and pure trash." With regards to Ryan, he said, quote, "To have taken away someone so important, it's just hurtful. I can't even find the words to describe how I feel." She was then sentenced, following the plea bargain agreement, for the murder of 51-year-old Stephen Edward Riley Jr., 48-year-old Ina Thea Kenoyer was sentenced to 50 years in prison, with 25 years of this suspended, with an additional 10 years of supervision. So what this means is that she will spend 25 years in prison and then be supervised by probation for a decade when she's released. If she commits any further offences or breaches the terms of her release, the suspended 25 years can be activated. Kenoyer showed no emotion when the sentence was passed, and she was taken to serve her time at the Dakota Women's Correctional Facility and Rehabilitation Center. Ina Kenoyer is likely to be released around 2047, when she'll be approximately 71 years old. No one will visit her, no one will care, and eventually she will come out penniless and alone, spending her last years no doubt in poverty and isolation, a fitting end to a woman filled with so much hate and greed. Unfortunately, we don't have much in the way of information about Ina Kenoyer, as nothing has really been published about her childhood, aside from her telling others that it was hard. I think this is likely true. I imagine she came from a house of abuse and neglect, one where she developed into a soulless, selfish creature, someone devoid of any humanity or remorse. I think she was also likely an absolute waster. She fell on hard times early in her life. I imagine that was because she was lazy. She wanted things handed to her. And then she met Stephen Riley, another person on a downward slope in his life, and the pair bonded. I think that Kenoyer liked this, that there was someone on the same level as her. But as Stephen progressed in his life, she resented him. He had friends. She had no one. He had a job. She was too lazy to work. I imagine she wielded control in the house and would belittle Stephen to make herself feel better. Abusing him and putting him down made her feel better about her sad existence. But underneath everything, like many domestic abusers, she was terrified of being abandoned. She knew in her late 40s that her prospects were bleak if she was left by Stephen. She would have no money, no life, no one to sponge off. When he said that he was going to leave her and take millions of dollars with him, she was apoplectic. How dare this man leave me? How dare he have a better quality of life? That should be mine. Killing Stephen, I think, was firstly to become immensely wealthy, but also punishment that he was daring to leave her. This is a man she'd been with for 13 years, but she didn't love him. He was something in her life, an object, something that was disposable. The callousness of her behaviour is shown by the way she killed him. Stephen would have gone through agony for 24 hours whilst he died, and Kenoyer watched it all. At no point did she regret what she did. At no point did she suddenly have a change of heart and call for help. No, she watched. She watched the man she apparently loved throwing up on himself, having seizures, likely with terror in his eyes. I think she likely enjoyed watching Stephen suffering, and she had absolutely no remorse. However, the thing about most murderers is that they are, to varying degrees, idiots. Given the advanced techniques that police forces have at their disposal these days, it's very hard to get away with murder. Some people do, but if you kill someone, the chances are, unless you're extremely skilled or very, very lucky, you'll be caught quickly, or potentially not for years, but there'll always be the fear of a knock at the door. Thinking you as an individual can outsmart an entire mechanism staffed by specially trained people whose job it is to catch you is naive at best. But there'll always be some people like Ina Kenoyer who think they're smarter than everyone else, when in fact they don't have the sense that God gave goats. Kenoyer is, in fact, in my eyes, a good example of the Dunning-Kruger effect. Someone so dumb they don't know how dumb they are. She didn't even bother to look into the claims of Stephen's inheritance. Just some basic research could have been undertaken to start poking holes in the story. I mean, this stunk of bullshit, but she lapped it up. Her greed overrode what little intellect she had. But what's even worse is the fact that she didn't even Google to see whether she was entitled to any of his money. I mean, talk about amateur hour. And this is what makes this murder so tragic. It was for absolutely nothing. There was no money, no inheritance. Stephen Riley lost his life because of an evil woman and a scam. Ina Kenoyer is a black widow. I imagine if we knew more about her background, the perception of her would be even worse than it already is. I fear for men when she's out. She will inevitably go looking for another vulnerable man who she'll sponge off, and if she thinks it will benefit her, she will have no hesitation in killing them. So what are your thoughts on this case? If you like the content, then consider becoming a channel member by clicking the join button. You can also send a one-off donation to support the channel via the thanks button. Please like, share and subscribe. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.